Well, hello everyone, welcome. I'm Katie and this is a fountain pen awakening. Today I'm going to do a currently inked vid, just showcasing what pens I've got inked up and what inks I'm working with for the start of the month. And I was going to try and do something a little bit different. Usually I kind of speed this section up and then come back to you at the end. So what I was going to try and do is do this like live time. So bear with me if there are silences, because I struggle with kind of like writing and talking to you guys at the same time. Also excuse all the noises. I am filming outside as I am making this video. I'm on my veranda. It was a beautiful morning and now it's kind of like it's clouding over, and you will hear all human noises and traffic noises and bird noises and all that kind of jazz. So hopefully it won't be too much of a distraction. But without further ado, let's get to it. So here we have my newest addition to the collection. This is my, well, Moonman, but rebranded to Mahjong, and it is a pocket pen. It's the little fat man and I've got the food and nib on it. So this one is inked up with my beautiful copper patina or patina, the Troublemaker ink. And with this one, it just depends on how you hold the pen. The line weight will be thicker or thinner. So this is the Q1 pocket pen. You do have to post it because it kind of doesn't fit in your hand if you don't. It's tiny whiny. It's about 9 inches thick in the thickest part of the pen, but kind of the grip section kind of goes in a bit so you can write with it. So Mahjong Q1 pocket pen with the food nib. For those of you who do not know what a food nib is, it's a bent nib and they use it for calligraphy purposes and drawings and sketchings. And this pen I've got inked with Troublemaker, and you know what I love is that you can see all this beautiful, you can see the gold sheening in this ink. Troublemaker, it's the copper. So the more vertical you go with this pen, the thinner the line. And you can also do reverse writing if you wanted to, which I find that if I do reverse writing and I'm journaling with it in my hobo, it writes really well. So if I start like that, then I go like that, then I go like that, then I go like that, you can see that we've got the line variations there. And if you hear this noise, this is the wind blowing through my palm trees. Very peaceful. Right, so that's my Mahjong Q1 pocket pen with a food nib. Next, my beautiful Benu Briolé, which I have swapped the broad nib out and I've put the medium nib. Now the Benos come with a Schmidt nib, which is a German nib. This originally came with a fine nib. Didn't like the fine nib. I ordered a broad nib for it. Quite enjoy the broad nib on it, and now I've got the medium on just to test it out. So we've got our Benu, I call it Brio for short, and this is inked with Diamine Blue Pearl, which is a shimmer ink. This is a medium nib. Yeah, I actually don't mind how this medium nib writes. There's not much of a line variation. There is, however, a bit of shading when you write with it. I've been told that I'm not allowed by one of my viewers to write the alphabet because it's quite boring. So I have to kind of like make sure that I'm in frame and make sure that I don't write a lot. Next one up is my Benu Brown Orchids. This one here I bought with a broad nib. because of my Benu Brio. I thought that broad nib was fantastic. I didn't like the broad nib, so I ordered the medium nib for this. I absolutely love this medium nib. It writes so well, and the ink combo that I have in this pen, I just love it. Benu, this is my brown orchid. I think this pairing here is going to be one of my all-time favorites. This is kind of like, I always have this ink in here. I will alternate it, but I think that my Van Diemen's Leatherwood Honey is kind of the perfect pairing for this pen. And it's got this kind of like shading going on, which is super cool. And I am writing on Tomoe River paper, the 52 GSM one, so you know everything shows up on this. But the shading that I get with this ink and this pen is out of control. I'm loving it. You know, usually I'm not one for a medium nib, to be honest. I'm more one for a calligraphy nib, you know, the calligraphy medium nibs from Pilot, or, you know, the Lamy 1.1 italic nibs. But this is perfect. It's just perfect. And next I have got my Pilot Matte Goldie. Pilot Goldie. This is my calligraphy medium nib. In this one with the Van Diemen Neptune's necklace. This is part of the Van Diemen's Underwater series. Neptune's necklace is kind of like a seaweed. Now, these two inks I kind of like interchange in my brown orchid, but for some reason I'm really loving this color ink with this pen. I kind of feel that it's a great pairing. I'm enjoying that. So far, so good. Ink with the color of this pen. Cool, huh? So that one there is my Goldie. Open this up. What have we got in here? Oh yeah, so what I've done is I wanted to test out this new cartridge from Five Super, which is a waterproof ink, and so I put it in here, and I've also changed out the nib because I found that the Kaweco broad there was no line to my writing. It was just a blobby mess. So this is my Kaweco Gold Sport, and it is inked with Five Super, a cartridge ink. This is a fine nib. Now this fine nib, this nib here, remember my Moon Man, how it came with 2 extra nibs? Well, I nicked the fine nib that was hanging around, put it in here, and now I've got a fine nib. And I'm really lucky because this is gold. This is a medium nib, not a fine nib. My bad. And so super, and this is, the name of this ink is Australian Red. Which is funny because this ink is a German brand ink. So, and I just love the way it sort of changes colour from how it goes down, and it then sort of dries to sort of a lighter kind of dusty rose pink, I guess it is. Yeah, I'm loving this medium nib. These Chinese nibs are very surprising, to be honest. Alright, next one is my Kaweco Aluminium Sport. This little cutie Sport. This has the medium. I kind of did put the 1.1 calligraphy nib on it, but I didn't quite like it, so I put the medium back on it. It's inked in Sailor's Fujisugata. It's a sample that I have. I'm trying to write it out. It's lasting forever and a day. Sugata, not Sugate. Yeah, it seems to be like an ink that's lasting forever, which is, you know, Fujisugata actually means wisteria. in Japanese, I believe. So this kind of bluey purple mauvey colour is what wisteria would look like. Yeah, so I don't mind at all how my little Kaveco writes with this Fujisugata. Next one, what shall I do? What shall I do? Violet Prera, Ivory. This is my calligraphy medium nib, and she's inked in Robert Oster's Viola. And this one gets a little bit of the line variation because it is a calligraphy medium nib, so it kind of makes sense that we get the line weight variation, and we get a lot of shading in this ink. Viola is like an iris, is in the Italian name for iris, so it is kind of like an irisy color. Next up is my Twisby Mini. Got inked up with Lamy Crystal Series inks that I had got those samples. So this is Twisby Mini. This is the stub nib, so the 1.1, and it's inked with Lamy Crystal Series. And this is called the Beryl, or Fuchsia Beryl, I should say, which is quite a gorgeous kind of magenta, and it does do a little bit of shading and got a bit of line weight here, so trying to write this one out. I think this is the last of it that I've got in this pen, so hopefully I can finish this sample off because I've got more samples coming. And what have I got next? Let's do my Sailor Pro Gear Slim. This is a medium nib, and this one I've inked with the Herbon, you know, the Wool Dunk or Woolly Dunk. I really like this combination. I kind of feel that this kind of writes the best with this ink. For some reason it does bring out that kind of orangey tone to the pinkiness of this ink. There is a little bit of shading to it. It dries, starts off pink, but then it kind of dries a bit of orangey kind of there. And I like this combo because for some reason, sometimes this ink, as you can see, does write a little bit blobby. It doesn't have a crisp line to it. So I find that in the Pro Gear, it kind of behaves well. Alright, so in my Nami white silver, I wanted to try out this Lamy ink, the grey one. So it's inked with, from the Crystal series. Again, this is a sample. It's quite a nice grey, a light grey, and I kind of don't mind this pairing with my with the body of this pen. It kind of matches this white silver. It's a 1.1 italic nib. This is my Lamy Vista. This is my Lamy Vista. Again, 1.1 nib. And this I've got inked with, yeah, it's the Van Diemen's Hue on Pine. This is a kind of a really sort of, not bright green, but a greeny green. It does have nice shading properties in it. It's not one of my favorite greens, so I don't tend to use it a lot, but I thought I better kind of like alternate using it every now and again when I don't have any new inks around, where I bought a bottle of it. Not a bad ink. And you know, like in your Lamy Vista, it kind of looks good. Anything looks good in here. Next pen is my Moonman, and in here I have my Butterfly ink, which is a Troublemaker ink, and this is going to be forever paired together because this pen and ink combination is amazing together. It's a green purpley kind of ink with a shimmer in it, and you know, it's kind of green and purpley here on the grip. Yeah, I love this pen. I really, really do. And it does all sorts of things. You can post it, and like post really super well, and it's not even back heavy. So Moonman, this is the S5, and this nib is like an oblique broad, I believe it is, and I've got it inked with Troublemaker, Butterfly Dream, Butterfly Dream, and sometimes I say dreams, but it's actually Butterfly Dream. This is a shimmering ink. It tends to shimmer purple like. It does shade really well too. It's kind of like a dark forest green. I love it. It just feels so nice to write with this ink, and particulates in it don't block it, don't, they don't create any problem. I love this ink and pen combo. I really, really, really do. Don't hate me because, this is, I think, like one of my cheapest pens. And it's like the gift that keeps on giving because it came with 2 spare nibs. And them 2 spare nibs I've put to good use. Now what have I got? Oh yeah, so I'm going to do my Pilot Custom. I've put the Edwards Garden shimmering ink back in here because I really didn't like the Velvet Bluegrass ink that I had in here. It didn't work well, in my opinion, anyway. And this has got my music nib on it. And this music nib's got such a spring to it when you write with it. And it's inked with Ferris Wheel Press, Edwards Garden. Now, this ink is part of a charger set, and it is a shimmer ink, and it also is a sheening ink. It has like a golden shimmer to it with a red sheen. It's performs really well in this pen with this nib because it showcases the actual shimmer and the sheen. So I love the performance of this ink in this here pen. I didn't like it so much when I had it in my TWSBI Mini. Different line ones, if you press down, yes, music nib is super fun. It sort of writes every which way. It's even the reverse writing on it. That's the Edwards Garden in my custom. Now, when I showed you the other day that I got my Fat Man with a food in it, I wasn't expecting it, but they gave me just a normal fine nib with a food in. So because I've had the 1.1 stub nib on my Shell Kill or Skull Kill, I changed it out from its original, which was a Gusher. I got a Jova or Yova nib, put that in, and so now I just wanted to sort of try it out with a finer nib. So I've put the fine nib that came with the Moonman, the Mahjong, Mahjong, because it's rebranded, and I've put it in here, and I have inked this up with the Lady Rose, Skull Kill. And this is Naval. This is now a fine nib. It's the fine nib that was in the Moonman. We've got it inked up with Ferris Wheel Press, Lady Rose. This ink also came part of a charger set that I bought of 3. I find this ink to be quite dry, to be perfectly frank with you guys. And then in some pens it performs a bit blobby. I don't know. Some Ferris Wheel Press inks to me are a bit blobby. And what I mean by that, they don't keep a crisp line when you write with them. But this seems to perform really well in my Skull Kill with this new nib. So that's pretty cool. Don't mind that at all. Tell you what, these Mahjong Moonmen or whatever you want to call them, they're super cheap and they give you all these nibs, and these nibs like fit everywhere. Pretty awesome. Okay. So in my Pilot Met Croc, what I did, I put in this ink that I accidentally bought a bottle of, which is a grey ink that I'm not particularly fond of grey inks, but I thought I better kind of give it a go. This has got the calligraphy medium nib on it, and we've inked this up with Van Diemen's Federation Peak, it's called. And it's kind of like a grey. It should have some shading to it. Kind of feels like it's got a bit of a pinky undertone to it. I thought to myself, well, I just want to try like a blacker ink in my Pilot crop, which is black, just because tendentially I do not gravitate to like darker greys and black inks. So I thought, oh, why not? We are, after all, heading into autumn or fall here in Australia, so let's try some different colours, right? So my last one that I have got inked up, and this is me, I have most of my pens in my collection inked up because that's just the way I roll. Now this one here is my Laban, and this one I call it Pinstripe, as a nickname. It is the Laban Antique 2. I did buy it with a broad nib. However, that broad nib I didn't like, and then when I went to have a look at replacing it, the Laban, they do have replacement nibs, but they only have it for one brand of their pen, so they didn't have any for these. But remember how I mentioned the Moonman came with those 2 spare nibs? So I put the Moonman nib in here. And this one here is the fine nib, and it's gold and it works, and so happy days. So this is the fine nib, inked with my Lamy Topaz Brown. Again, part of the Crystal Ink series, but it does shade. You know what I mean? It's these nibs are very surprising. These Chinese nibs that come with Moonman or Mahjong, they actually write super well. The writing isn't scratchy or anything like that, so I'm super surprised and pleasantly so. And I'm just kind of thanking my lucky stars that these nibs were part of the set and were free, and I can use them in my other pens. You know what I'm saying? Me, I love experimenting with nibs. All right, my friendly friends, so this is it. We've got my copper patina or patina in my Mahjong. We've got my Diamond Blue Pearl Shimmer ink in my Brio. Oops, sorry. I've got Brown Orchid inked up with my Leatherwood, which is a perfect pairing. And my Goldie, my Pilot Matte, with my Neptune's Necklace, which is kind of a perfect pairing too, to be honest. This is a new entry. It's called 5 Super. It's a cartridge ink, and it's Australian red. It's a waterproof ink. My Kaweco aluminium in Fujisugata, Prera with Robert Oster's Viola, Tisby Mini with my Lamy Crystal in the Fuchsia Beryl, Sailor Pro Gear with the Herbine Raw Dunk. It's white silver inked with the Lamy Agate Grey, so I don't mind at all actually, it's quite nice. Lamy Vista with the green Van Diemen's Huon Pine. Moonman, as you can see, the purpley shimmer in there with my Troublemaker Butterfly Dream. And you see that shimmer there with the Edwards Garden for the custom 74 with the music nib. And I don't know if you can see, but there's also some red sheening there. Skullkill with my Lady Rose. Pilot Croc with the Van Diemen's Federation Peak, which is sort of like a grey ink. And last but not least, the Laban with a Lamy Topaz Brown, which is part of the Lamy Crystal Ink series. So there you have it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed my inked up in March vid. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions. Which one are your favorite inks? Have you got any of these inks that I have showcased today? And thank you all so much again for following my channel and being part of my fountain pen journey. I will see you in my next one, and until then, have a great one. Ciao, belli.